When I graduated from college, I had hoped to come home and participate in in seeing the highway completed by the time I was 30 years old. And that didn't happen.
I always remember people talking about the expansion of Highway 24 growing up.
Many of the old timers, I think, said that they've been talking about 4-lane and 24 since the late 40s.
My grandfather actually worked on the highway when he, in the 30s. My mother came from Richlands, which is also located on Highway 24, and so my mother and father's courtship developed on Highway 24. My family has always been involved in one way or another in Highway 24, as has the rest of the community. I was a part of the Roseboro Area Economic Development Commission. And we worked on trying to get the road, the 4-lane road, completed through here. And so when it was finally approved, those of us who had worked on that and who had followed all those issues, we just sort of felt like that our job was done and we quit.
Last year, basically, a lot of dirt started moving around Roseboro.
We just always operated on the assumption, you know, even though if we looked closer at the maps, that we would realize that that it was not going to be a intersection where you would come up, drive up to the 242 as it is now, come to a stoplight, and then cross over the 24 and head on traffic. That was very disconcerting when we realized the road was not going to be that way.
The Salemburg community is 4 miles away. I having grown up here at a time when there was one school for both communities, I've always looked at us as one cohesive unit, even though they're two individual municipalities. Initially, I was told there was not going to be a connecting highway between these two towns, and that I thought was going to be very devastating to both Roseboro and Salemburg.
If this was 242 going towards Salemburg on 242, in order to go to Salemburg, you would have to make a right into traffic coming down 24 at probably 65 miles an hour. You would then have to cross over into the other lane, cross both lanes of traffic coming from Clinton into this bulb out area, and then gradually come back onto 24 and then make a turn to get back onto 242. So you're talking about students going to and from school, you're talking about older people, you're talking about everybody, and then you're talking about the big trucks, the hog trucks, the turkey trucks, the trucks that carry the long pieces of steel, all of them trying to make this turn into this fast-moving traffic. It had been determined way before I ever got on the board, so I had not looked at it, and that was on me. But when we started looking at it and just seeing how dangerous it was, it became a real concern. So I introduced it at a STEP meeting, and I had kind of a letter that I handed out to them as one that they could use to write the senators, the legislatures, our representatives, the school board, the county commissioners, basically gave them a list of emails and addresses. And I'll say a lot of the people got responses back from these letters, and they shared them with me. And usually it was no. It wasn't going to happen. And then we invited DOT here for a town board meeting, and this room was packed.
Well, there was an information session presented by the DOT that You know, they seemed very close-minded at that meeting towards any changes. I don't think they really understood. I don't think they walked away from that meeting with a clear understanding of our safety concerns.
The district engineers came down and explained the road and why it was safer and why we didn't need stoplights at the turnarounds. At that time, we were more concerned about the safety of the students and the parents and the individuals turning. I don't think that the business and truck traffic had become a big issue. And we, after having the presentation, which was not satisfactory, it was very much that we did not feel that it wasn't a matter of them listening into our concerns. It was basically, here's what we're going to do, and we know what's best. The next day, I contacted an attorney who's also a state legislature, Mr. Leo Daltrey, and asked him if he could arrange for us to have a meeting with somebody in Raleigh, that the head engineer. That person's name was Mike Holder. He was the chief the engineer for the state. And he would be the one that would ultimately make the decision in this situation, since we felt that we just had to get heard.
Getting the business people involved was huge. When they realized, and Houston Crumpler, whenever he realized exactly how it was, he reached out to a lot of people and got the support of the business people behind it and how it was going to adversely affect them. And they also had a little bit of a new message. It wasn't just the school buses and the big trucks. They were able to actually give an example of how some of the trucks could not safely make this maneuver. And we certainly don't need to lose any more businesses.
When people design highways, they don't normally have a lot of local input that would expose these types of liabilities to the state. They're looking at population studies, and they're saying, well, here's the town of Roseboro, it only has 1,500 people, and here's the town of Salemburg, it only has 700 or 800 people, whatever the population is of both the communities. And they're designing the road in Raleigh, and we're sitting back here in our communities not knowing what they're doing, not really caring what they're doing. We just know that they're doing their job, and we're trying to live our daily lives. And then when you find out what they've designed, and you realize that it won't work, you can finger point at people and say, you didn't do your job right. Well, that's not really fair. They didn't really realize the type of economy we had here, and so we had to expose that to them. And once that was exposed to them, that's when they backed up and said, we better refigure this thing. I was actually surprised that they stopped and said, let's look at this now. Let's don't wait for 5 or 6 people to be killed here or injured. I wasn't attributing anything to the people that actually are in charge. I was surprised because that's just the way bureaucracy works.
Michael Holder's office just called and said they wanted to meet with us, just have a meeting to kind of tell us what they had decided. And they would come here to Roseboro to meet with us. And so we really didn't know what was going to happen. We met right in here, and he sat right over there, and he told us that they had looked at it and they had re-examined it, and they had realized that it did warrant the ramps.
The exchange that was initially proposed just was going to be a safety concern. So I'm very excited for that, from that perspective, because I have small kids that are getting to the point of driving on those roads. But also equally happy that it doesn't really divide the two communities up and cause those concerns about the economy.
It was just going to be very difficult for people to stop in Roseboro. And even people in Salemburg were talking about they wouldn't be coming over here to Roseboro anymore. They would just get on 24, or they would go the back way to Clinton. So it was just it was a relief, it was joy, it was just kind of all those things, and a chance for our businesses to stay viable. And that's what we have to have businesses. If you don't have business, you don't have a community.
Once it's done, I mean, this is something we've all waited on all of our lives. Everybody else is just like me about Highway 24 and Highway 242. They want to see it done in their lifetime and see some benefit, and see some children and some grandchildren coming back here to live just like I do. So it will be worth the trouble and worth the wait.
The thing I heard is this gives Roseboro a chance. It did. It gives us some hope.
Hello, Mr. McLean.
I born in South City, 1927, May the 27th, 1927. Lived here until I was 16 years old. I left here and I went to college in Hampton, Virginia for 1 year. Then I was drafted into the Army. Stayed in the Army 30 months, discharged, honorable discharge, and then I left there and I went to New York City. I lived in New York City for a couple of years. Then I come back to South City. I lived here 715 Hill Street ever since. I've done a lot of things here. I joined a church, raised a family. Happily married for almost 6 to 7 years. This is right here where I was born. I couldn't really tell you the right location, but I think it was near here. Right, I think it was, this is about as close as I think it would be. Because they had a fence there. Yeah. I think right here is one.
Do you have a picture of the house?
Lord, no, that little shack been torn down many moons ago. It was a company house. My daddy was a company man. He worked at the cotton mill. And he lived in a cotton mill house. They called it a mill home. And that little house was sitting in here. It was 3 houses in here. There was 1 here and 2 on the other side. All mill homes. This is nothing here now. Shut down. But worked there 40 years. One side of the street were private-owned homes, and the other side was company company owned. The company owned all those houses there, and the private over here. Let's stop to see the mayor here. Would you like to do that now?
Yes, sir.
Let me see if he's in his. Bud's Tire Company. We see if he's here. Okay.
Hello, Albert. How are you
Fine.
doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
That's right. Always good to see you.
Good.
For what they're saying, with Albert, Miss McLean, his word is his bond. When he gives you his word's there. It's like all societies all over the world. There are those who you can put value to their word. You'll know exactly what they're saying is good. Then there are other individuals in the world that, you have to take what they tell you with a grain of salt. Just don't know whether it's the real thing or not. But with Mr. McLean, it's been the real thing. And we was passing this Martin Luther King Boulevard Road. He played a main part in it. Wasn't for guys like Mayor Graham, never happened. I've gone to other towns such as Raleigh, Winston-Salem. I saw Martin Luther King. I said, why can't Siler City have Martin Luther King Boulevard or Martin Luther King Drive? And I went down and implemented that to the town board of Siler City. First they rejected me, but I said, well, we'll be back with it. Next time I went back, I had about 75 or 100 black people there with me. And I recommended it again, and it passed. And they put a street, Martin Luther King, going right straight down beside my house here. And I was a happy man, rejoiced. I mean, all the black folks was really happy about it. We have accomplished something. Let our people know that who Martin Luther King is, what he represented. He represents freedom. When I was a young man in Sunday school, they called me one Sunday to review the lesson. I stood up and I didn't know what to say. While the lesson was going on, I was back there playing, going. So I mumbled out a few words. And I said to myself then, I said, if I ever have another opportunity to speak up in my church, I said, I'm going to have something to say, because I'm going to pay attention to what's going on so that I can say something about what's going on with lessons taking place in my church. And ever since that day, I've been able to speak up and not ashamed to do it. I grab that mic and go right on. It doesn't bother me. But you have to be determined to do it. You have to be dedicated. When you're determined and you're dedicated and God is with you, you can't be stopped. It taught me a lot. It taught me how to love the Lord and how to maintain myself around people. Here's a room of knowledge. So I was preacher steward, I think about 15 years. Next man to the preacher, but that was really a good job. It was a hard job, but I done it with for blessing. Seemed like to me then I didn't mind doing things because it was easy for me to do it because I'd always trusted in the Lord to help me do things. And we also had several pastors that died while I was next man to him. And we always had service. If one pastor would die, I'd always find a speaker to take his place. Back in the early 40s, and the new church was started building, I think in the 50s, around 50, 51. They started from the ground. And
I couldn't lay bricks, but I made mortar, rolled the bricks to them, and whatever I could do to enhance the building of the church. That's what we done. Yeah, when I redistributed, he said, how about redistribute one of your own? I just pick up the book, and whatever my hand turned to, that's what I read. The gates of Zion more than all the dwelling of Jacob. Glorious things are spoken of thee, O city of God. I will make mention of Rahab and Balaam to them, they know me. Behold, Tyre and Ephia. Really enjoy this, man. I learned the Bible, and I studied the Bible. You get me talking about the Bible, sometimes I can't stop because I really read it, and I really love the Lord, and I talk about the Bible. And I know the Bible. I know what it says. I know you have to be obedient. If you're going to make it into the kingdom of God, you're going to have to be. It was an all-white school. And I always asked my mother, I said, Mom, why can't I attend that school there? She said, you can't because that's an all-white school. That's no color attend that school. So you cannot go to that school. And that disheartened me. And I really wanted to attend that school because all of my white buddies that I played with attended school at an early age. And we grew up separated, but we still played with each other because I was born right in the heart of Siler City, and all my friends was white. And I played with them, and we got along good. There was no fights, maybe a little rock throwing once in a while, but nothing serious. But we really got along good. And today, some of those guys are still living, and we still meet and talk with each other today. We always talk about growing up in Siler City, equal, separated but equal. But that's not so. We were separated, but we wasn't equal. But the restaurant was a little different. They did have a place in the back for the black people. But as far as eating with the white, we couldn't do that. But they did have a place. For if you wanted a meal, you could sit down and eat in the back. That was the only place I knew in Siler City that was separated. But anything else, if you had the money, buy something, you could go right in that store and buy it. There was no Jim Crow there whatsoever. I need some tomato plants.
You can get them.
Okay. This is the oldest store in town, isn't it?
Supposed to be 1888. 1888.
That's where I buy all my seeds for my garden. That's why they didn't come up, I tell you.
You tell her how many seeds you buy, $2 at a time.
Well, that's all I need, but they didn't come up. I believe you kind of cheat me a little bit on my seeds.
Ain't nobody would rather do it to than you.
Yeah, right.
Oh, God, I've been knowing him since.
I was a little boy, and he come up to me.
Don't start lying. I thought he asked. There's 1, 2, 3, there's 4, 5 of them.
Yeah.
One was in
Navy.
Navy, Marines, Army. 2 was in the Army.
Then there's. Billy, we're gonna leave you now. We thank you for letting us look around.
Okay.
I'll be back down in a few more days.
We'll have some more pocket change with you.
That's one of the commissioners. He caught him sitting on the truck, and he's talking about how much money that each one of them had. Oh, you guys have a good day.
I need a yard mowed or something.
You're right. Yeah. 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 Don't even mow your own yard. I know that's gonna happen.
We always support the fire department. Because when I call you guys coming running, you know that.
Well, we try.
Yeah.
We try. Thank God you don't call us that often.
I sure don't. I hope I never call you.
Live.
Okay, you guys have a
When
good
it's
day.
tight with nobody, if I hear anything, I give it to you. You can't live with your fishbowl up. Nothing can get in. And something can get in there. But like that, can't nothing get in. That's the way I live.